everybody, welcome back to another edition of Crafting and Crime Daily, where I, Rebecca, your host, also known as Crafting Journey, recap live trials. I've got day 2 of the Taylor Schabusiness case that we're going to talk about, but first, we're going to talk about the sentencing of Megan Imirowitz. That's another trial that I covered a few months back, and I'm going to kind of bring you up to speed about it. But if you look down in at my homepage, I guess. I have playlisted all the trials I've covered if you want to get a flavor for that one. These shows are designed to listen to while you craft. And I am crafting, yes. Finished up a diamond painting yesterday. Didn't know what the heck I was going to work on until my event starts on Tuesday next week. So I went through my stash and I found this old painting that I started a couple of years ago. It's a Gary Patterson painting. He's a cartoonist. Love him. Here's a picture of what it will look like when it's all done someday. So I thought, well, let me work on that because I need to have something to do while I'm listening to these trials. I could have got the crochet out that's over there, but I'm a little crocheted out for a day or two. Anyway, tonight I'm going to be live at 7 p.m. Central Time, where I will be probably watercolor painting unless I change my mind. So we'll see. All right. I have time stamped what I'm going to talk about today. So if you want to skip ahead, look down in the description. You can just click on whatever timestamp you want to go to. Anyway, Megan Imirowitz was charged with the death of her father, throwing an irritant on him that caused his death. She got mad at her dad. She was 3 days past her 18th birthday, got mad at her dad because he was intoxicated on the couch, and she threw some garbage at him, and that garbage contained a bottle of lye. Lye. Yeah, very irritating. I had no idea, so I suspect she didn't either. That it would cause burns when it gets on your skin, and then you put water on top of it. You mix it with a little water. We don't know if she threw water on him. The couch was wet. Now, we learned later on that that could possibly be him urinating on himself. Oh dear, the cat is at it again. Ditch, what are you doing? Please don't do that. Please, you're going to make a mess. Oh my God. Oh my God. It's like an avalanche over there. I'll clean it up later. This cat. He's always up to no good. That's Stitch for you. Stitch, please go find something else to do. It's too hot for him to play outside. So it's going to get you. It's going to get you. So yesterday was the sentencing. She was found guilty of throwing this irritant on her father, causing his death. He spent 6 months in a burn unit and passed away at his home. He asked to be discharged to hospice. He goes home and he passes away. Now, when he got to the hospital for treatment, he had a blood alcohol level of 0.3. No, I'm sorry, 0.3. 0.08 is the legal limit to drive. Like if you're over 0.08, you're not allowed to be driving. He was 3 times that, three and a half, 4 times that. Yeah. And he said, "Oh no, I just had a Smirnoff Ice." I don't think so. And I saw body cam footage of him in the hospital talking, and he was clearly a functioning alcoholic, but an alcoholic nonetheless, and in denial, obviously. So, Megan Imirowitz lived with her father after her brother, who also lived in the home with her father, left. She had to quit her job to help take care of her father because he was always drunk. Now, she had a mom. Her mom and dad split when she was 8.5 years old. And eventually, first she lived with her mom. Eventually, she went to live with her father, who her sister, who's only 11 months younger than her, described her father as her best friend. She just loved her dad. She just adored her dad, and her dad called her an angel, his angel. Well, she got mad that morning because when she got up, she was going to have a birthday party that night, and he was supposed to help by driving her around, getting ready for the birthday party. Nope, he's drunk on the couch. So she got mad. She threw the bag of garbage at him. Then she leaves. She has a friend go wake him up later on that day because she needs the credit card information to pay for a hair appointment. And the friend ends up calling 911 because she sees that something's wrong with him, but she doesn't know what's wrong with him. Turns out he's got third-degree burns all over him. He spends 6 months in the burn unit, and then he passes away. So yesterday was the sentencing. So Megan Imirowitz, in her striped scrubs from the jail, comes in, and she just is blubbering and sobbing and gives this very long speech to the judge. How she wants to become a marine biologist, and she wants to set up a charity to help recovering alcoholics, and she's read the Bible from front to back, and I don't know how that helps, but okay. Whatever floats your boat. Anyway, there are several letters that are read into the record. The mother gets up and she testifies and talks about how it's affected everyone in the family, and that there's a lot of family dynamics that didn't come out during the trial. And she had put all that into a letter that the prosecution objected to being read into the record, and so it was not read into the record. There was a letter from her sister that was read into the record. Obviously, there's only one person in this family holding any angst against her, and that's her older brother, who would not allow any family member, mom, sister, Megan, the other brother, Austin, none of those people could see their father, ex-husband. None of them could see him after he suffered these burns. He just said, nope, I'm in charge. You're not going to see him. They never got to say goodbye to him. Those kids never got to say goodbye to their father because of this young man holding all this angst against all the rest of the family members. He needs to let that shit go. That's just my opinion. Anyway, so the judge listened to all that, and then she said, I've made my decision. You know, this is a very, very serious crime you've been charged with, Megan. However, I believe that you grew up physically abused. There was an attempted sexual abuse by a sibling that was never addressed by either of your parents. Your parents split when you were 8.5 years old. You started mentally declining at 10 years old and had multiple admissions in mental health facilities for severe anxiety, depression, suicidal ideations. She said, I believe that you've had the inability to grow mentally as a child. She said, your father was a severe alcoholic, in denial. He was not fit to be a parent, and he put you in harm's way a lot. She actually used, he always put you in harm's way. She said, you have no criminal history, that your father would pick you up from school, etc., to drive you to work, whatever. And he was always drunk, putting you in harm's way. And to the point where you had to quit your job to stay at home and take care of him because your brother left home. She said, it was clear that he had a horrible addiction and he was in denial to the point where he had alienated himself from the rest of the family. She said that the house was not fit for habitation. She said she had listened to testimony of urine in bags around the couch, feces on the floor. She said the medical workers, when they got there to take care of your father, could barely get to him. The house was just so filthy. She listened to testimony from the other daughter about vomit in the shower and in the bathroom waste can, and how disgusting this house was. So she said, and your father set off a bug bomb the day before. The house was infested with fleas and rodents, and your father set off this bug bomb, and then fails to leave the house, doesn't even leave the house. He just stays there with this bug bomb. No self-awareness of, how he might be injuring himself. Then when he gets to the hospital, he has this ridiculously high blood alcohol level. She said, "You did not have the luxury of being a child." She said, "The court doesn't believe that you knew the seriousness of your actions or the consequences of what you were doing." She said, "You were barely 18 years old and your brain was not developed." Then she quotes some other case law that quotes some medical uh, journals or testimony that says that juveniles have very limited control of their impulses because their brain is not fully developed. And she thinks that's what was going on here in this case. And she says, "I don't believe that you're likely to engage in a course of criminal conduct in the future. I think the public is safe if I let you out of jail." So she sentenced her to 1 year in jail with credit for 501 days. Now, there's only 365 days in a year, so she's done. Her prison sentence has been served. Jail. She never went to prison. She was in jail. You don't go to prison until after your sentencing. Followed by 5 years of probation. She has to wear an ankle monitor for 6 months, and then they will revisit whether she needs to wear it in the future. She'll have a 9 o'clock curfew. She cannot have any firearms, and she must go back to school. She has to either get her GED or enroll back in high school, and she has to have mental health treatment. And if she violates any condition of her probation, she will be facing 5 to 25 years in prison. So, good outcome there, I think. I think it was fair. I really do. I think it was fair. I mean, it was clear to me that, she was mad. She was mad at dad. She'd had enough. He was a drunk alcoholic. Very, very sad. Very sad. Okay, next case. Taylor Schabusiness. She was wearing a different outfit. It was very similar to the one she had on day before, but different. She had her hair, pulled up and then down in the back, and so she looked very coiffed. I'm sure her attorney had to talk with her. Said, you need to sit up, pay attention, not act like you're falling asleep. All right, so the first person to testify on day 2 was the medical examiner. Now, he talked about how he actually is a medical examiner at the time for a different county. And at that time, the county that they were in, which was Brown County, did not have a medical examiner. They do now, but at that time they didn't. So he got a call from the investigator for Brown County, and they've worked together many times. So she let him know what was going on. She responds to the scene, and then they wait for him to get there. Then they go down with the detectives and they start sorting through the evidence. This medical examiner said that he was very surprised at how little blood there was on the scene. He thought there would be a lot more. So once they collect all of the evidence from the various containers and totes and buckets and all that stuff, they put it into bags and then put it into a child size body bag. And here's a picture of how it arrives at the medical examiner's office. He says, we call a car. The driver comes in a refrigerated car, picks up the contents that are on this stretcher, delivers it to a refrigerated storage area, and then he says on the 25th, which was 2 days later, he pieced it all together and like a puzzle. Now, after he examined or took all the evidence from that basement, he said that they were missing the right thigh from the waist to the knee, and they were missing the left thigh and leg. So he let the police know that they did not have a complete body. So then that's when they send the cops the police officers over to Taylor Schabusiness's address. They know what kind of vehicle she was driving. They were asked to find that vehicle, surveil it until further notice. And we'll get to that witness that has the body cam on that surveillance later. So once that van is in custody, they find the van in front of Taylor Schabusiness's apartment. It's taken into custody. It's put into an air-conditioned storage unit that they have. So the medical examiner goes to the storage unit. Nothing was done on that vehicle. They did not touch anything inside that vehicle until the medical examiner got there, because they had no idea if there was anything in that vehicle or not. So once they open the door and they start going through it, they see in the passenger seat behind the driver's side is a laundry basket. Here's a picture. And in that laundry basket is this crock pot box. Well, when they open the crock pot box, there is a right femur, a portion of a left thigh, and a portion of the left leg in the crock pot box. Then the prosecution wanted to show the autopsy photo of the head. So there was an objection, of course, by the defense. This is more prejudicial than probative. This is a 403 objection. That's the evidence code. It's standard. Every defense attorney makes it because as a juror, I don't want to see autopsy photos. I don't. I believe you. You found a head in a bucket. I believe you. I do not need to see it. I don't need to see it. He says it will shock their conscience and horrify them. It's that they're not thinking, "Oh, this is helping me understand what she did." They're just horrified by what they're going to see. The judge overruled. He said, "No, we're going to show the pictures of the head. It will help the jury to understand what happened." It won't. It really won't. I'm sorry. I'd be raising my hand. Can I be excused? Lunch is in an hour, and no, I'm not doing this. Okay, bye. Yeah, I'd have been out of there. Put an alternate in my place. I'm gone. I don't want to see the head. So the judge also ruled that the cameraman was not to live stream pictures of the head. Nope. And I will tell you that Taylor had her eyes closed. Yeah, she wasn't looking at it either. No. So the first thing he did was, once he had all, during the autopsy, once he had all the body parts put in the right place, he starts his autopsy. But because this is during COVID, he does a nasal swab, and Shad Therion was positive for COVID. What? I hear you. You hear him meowing over there. He's bored. What's the matter? I'm bored, Mommy. Hi. Come here. Come here. Doesn't like for me to hold him. Come on. No? Okay. Don't want to come up. I don't want to be on camera, Mom. All right. So then the judge rules that he can show the head. This medical examiner, I liked him because he anticipated these objections. And he said, we're not going to show any of the other pictures, just the head. None of the other pictures were shown. No more body parts. But what he did was he made diagrams. He had, he takes those, back and front of the body, the front of the body, back of the body. He had several different diagrams. And you could see where the cuts had been made, and lots of notes were taken, and we all got the idea. We got the idea. Yeah. So he talks about the head. He said there was a deep purplish color of the head and neck. He ruled that the cause of death was strangulation. And he said he came to this conclusion because of all that congestion of blood in the head and neck. The circulation, he was still alive when he was choked. So the circulation was still going. and that caused all the blood to go up into his head and his tongue was protruding, which happens when you strangle someone. The rest of the body, there were no bruises or bleeding or anything like that because he had no blood. There was no circulation when the rest of the cuts were made. So that led him to the conclusion that he was strangled. One of the, yeah, it was gross. He was castrated. Not only was his head in that bucket, but so was his penis and his testicles. She was sending a message, I guess. Also, very strange, his left foot had been placed into the chest cavity. Then he wanted to do toxicology, but he said this is kind of virtually a bloodless autopsy, no blood. So what he had done was he took some of the blood that had pooled at the bottom of the bucket where the head was found, and could it have been contaminated? Oh yeah, it could have other kinds of fluid in there, but it's what I had to work with. But that came back positive for cocaine, methamphetamine, amphetamines, nicotine, marijuana, and what he did was he did DNA swabs of many of the body parts. The next person to testify was a Green Bay police officer. Now, he was sent out to Taylor Schabusiness's home. Once they knew that they didn't have the entire body, they needed to get to that vehicle she was driving to see what was in there and to find her and talk to her. So they had, like I said earlier, they had sent another agency, had located the van, they were surveilling it. So this officer responds out there and he gets out of his vehicle. He's got his body cam footage on. We see the footage. As he's walking towards the vehicle that's parked in front of this apartment building that has one common entrance, and it's almost in front of that common entrance, he meets up with another cop, and they walk around the van, and they're shining the light in the windows, and you see the crock pot box sitting there, and at they're at the front of the vehicle and they're looking at the ground, which is covered in snow, and they think that they see some blood drops that came from the driver's side. And while they're bent over shining the flashlight looking at it, the lights click on in the van. And he's like, who did that? Who did that? Well, what they realized was somebody with a key fob was locking or unlocking the van. And they look over, and Taylor Schabusiness is standing in the entranceway of the apartment building. So they walk over to her. She seems normal to me. This officer said she did not appear intoxicated or high or anything like that. She appeared normal. He identified her because he had looked up a picture of her before going out to the scene. So he places her under arrest, brings her back inside, and has her sit in the stairwell. While he's having her sit in the stairwell, you can hear action in the background where other officers are going into her apartment and yelling at the mail that they find in the apartment, down on the ground. They're all pulling their weapons, and he's placed under arrest because it's his van. So we got to see all of that. They also mentioned that there was a Sergeant Schilling on the scene. Yes, that's my last name. No relation, but glad the Schillings are into law and crime. Okay. Then the DNA analyst comes on and he explains to the jury that they have a protocol or a process, or I don't know what you call it, but they only allow 10 samples at a time per case. So they got a sample swab from Taylor's right hand, Taylor's left hand, a blade, some red substance that was in a box, sweatpants, 4 different areas of the sweatpants, a dildo, a bedroom light switch, and penal swabs. All were presumptive positive for blood except the light switch, but they still analyzed it for DNA. So Taylor and Shad's DNA was found on both her hands. Well, of course, you're going to find her DNA. It's her. But Shad's DNA was on both of her hands. It was on the blade. Shad's DNA was on the red substance in the box. Shad and Taylor's DNA was on all 4 spots on her pants. Only her DNA was found on the dildo. There were 2 other male contributors to the DNA mixture that was on the dildo. However, this analyst explained that he could neither rule Shad in or rule him out. There wasn't enough evidence to support either conclusion. It was inconclusive. Then the penile swab came back with Shad's DNA on it. And of course, he did the whole, what is DNA thing? And, yeah. Time for the coffee. Yep. They had a lot of witnesses on the stand. They had 2 evidence techs who came on and explained, yes, I received the evidence. Here's our process. Here's how we store it, that kind of thing. And then they had a computer analyst come on and talk about cell phone extraction, how that's done and how she does it. In this case, she extracted 10 different cell phones. Don't know who the 9 of them were. They never got to that testimony, but one of the cell phones was Taylor Schabusiness. She extracted the information from that and gave it to a detective to analyze. And she suggested that they subpoena Google to get the missing information. So the detective did that. She wrote up a search warrant, sent it over to Google, and Taylor had 5 Google accounts, so they gave her all the information. The cell phone analysts put that into a computer program and printed it out in a format that was readable. And I will tell you what the detective found in a minute. But first, they put this friend of Shad and Taylor's on the stand. No idea why, because man, the lights were on, but nobody was home in that guy's head. He, I don't know, he just was Indian guy, and I'm not going to say he's dumb. I'm just going to say his brain has been fried. He just, yeah, he couldn't answer a straight question. But what I gleaned from his testimony is that he got together with Taylor and Shad the day before the murder at Taylor's apartment, and they were chopping it up. And when he said that, Taylor at the defense table burst out laughing. I was like, what did he just say? I have never heard that expression. Never. And the prosecutor said, I'm sorry. I know that's slang for something. What does that mean? Chopping it up. What do you mean by that? And he says, making small talk. Oh, okay. And he said they were all drunk. Hi, baby. Hi, baby. You want to come up here with mommy? No. Okay. So then the detective gets on the stand that was analyzing the cell phone extraction, and she said that within a few days of the murders, Taylor had searched Jeffrey Dahmer many times, many searches, had downloaded multiple photographs of Jeffrey Dahmer. Also KKK, a pentagram, blow-up doll customized face. That was another search that she did. Very weird. Yeah. And that's where the day ended. So we still have not heard the interview that she gave the police, the lengthy interview where she admits what she did. More to come. Yes. Guys. All right. I hope I get to see you guys tonight in the live. That is at 7 p.m. where I'll be watercolor painting. And it's just a chit chat, see what everybody's working on while they're listening to the show. Hi, baby. I gotta let him out. He's so bored. All right. I will see you all later. Have a great day. Bye.